In 22 ABY, Mara Jade Skywalker decided to end her partnership with Carter to fully commit to her marriage and her role as a Jedi Knight. Before departing, she had one final mission: to inform smuggler Jerf Huxley that Carter's group was releasing him from employment. Angered, Huxley attempted to intimidate her with a makeshift droideka, but the Skywalkers easily subdued the smugglers and destroyed the droid. Immediately afterward, they received an invitation from the Chiss, relayed by Carde, to represent the Jedi in the recovery of the Outbound Flight Project ruins, which had been destroyed by Thrawn, and were now located in a Chiss stronghold known as the Redoubt. However, Carde also warned them that the original message had been stolen by a former employee named Dean Jinsler. The Skywalkers traveled as honorary guests aboard the Chaff Envoy. Upon their arrival, a cable detached from the ceiling and nearly struck Luke Skywalker, who deftly avoided it. Though the incident was suspicious, the two Jedi were unharmed, and Jade Skywalker later investigated the fixture. During her inspection, she encountered Chak Fel and 4 stormtroopers from the Empire of the Hand. Fortunately, neither Fel nor the stormtroopers appeared hostile, as they were also interested in the remains of Outbound Flight. Before departing, the Chaff Envoy was approached by an outdated vessel carrying a group of people called the Jaroons, who claimed to have been saved from slavery years ago by the Jedi aboard Outbound Flight. The Chiss allowed some of the Jaroons to board the Chaff Envoy as representatives, and the impoverished people were awed by the presence of the two Jedi. Eventually, the party, including the Jaroon representatives Dean Jinsler, posing as a New Republic representative, Chak Fel, and the stormtroopers, set out for the Redoubt. However, none of the disparate groups trusted one another or their Chiss host. During the expedition, the Skywalkers grew increasingly suspicious due to several sabotage attempts. These included a fire near the fuel tanks and the discovery of destructive line creepers on the ship. In the first instance, the Jedi and stormtroopers were on hand to help. Skywalker levitated his wife into a position where she could use her lightsaber to slice through a coolant line, quickly dousing the fire. The Chiss reluctantly thanked them for their assistance. In another incident, a Jaroon was shot by a mysterious assailant, but despite the Jedi's quick response with lightsabers ready, they couldn't identify the attacker and were reprimanded by the ship's captain for unnecessary weapon waving, much to Jade Skywalker's annoyance. As they continued their journey, Jade Skywalker began doubting her past as an Emperor's hand. Her husband, however, managed to reassure her and coax her out of her doubts. Once they reached Outbound Flight, the different parts of the diplomatic party were separated by the survivors, who were the last remaining crew members, and their descendants using repulsor cars. The Skywalkers ended up in a rigged repulsor car, but they managed to escape and return to the entry point. Meanwhile, the Jaroons revealed themselves to be the tyrannical Vagari, and they were in much greater numbers than initially believed. The Vagari had already taken control of the Chaff Envoy and were moving around the derelict vessel. The Skywalkers were attacked by a party of Vagari and their wolf kills while making their way back through the dreadnoughts. They easily defeated the attackers, as the Chiss had deliberately kept the Vagari ignorant of the Jedi and their lightsabers' capabilities. After making contact with Fel and the stormtroopers, the Skywalkers headed back to rescue the Chiss diplomatic party, engaging numerous Vagari along the way. Eventually, they succeeded in rescuing the Chiss and reuniting with Fel and the stormtroopers, who had also battled through Vagari patrols. Following brief negotiations with the survivors, the Skywalkers persuaded them to assist in fighting the Vagari. Her visit and acts of kindness left a significant impression on many of the younger members of the Outbound Flight survivors, including a young man named Kedrin Fal. With the help of the Imperials, the Chiss party, and the survivors, the Skywalkers soon had the Vagari in full retreat, forcing them to activate their contingency plan. The Vagari reactivated, separated, and took one of the 6 dreadnoughts that comprised Outbound Flight to rendezvous with their main ship. The Skywalkers chased it down in a Delta-12 Sky Sprite and intercepted the ship. On board, they fought through heavy defenses, including a fully programmed and activated droideka, and defeated the Vagari leader. It turned out that the entire visit had been orchestrated by the Chiss to lure the Vagari into attacking, thus justifying a full-fledged war against them. At the end of the mission, Jade Skywalker told her husband that she felt her place was by his side in the New Republic, despite its shortcomings and the allure of the Empire of the Hand. During this period, Jade Skywalker also took her niece, Jacen Solo, as an apprentice, giving her a modified Z-95 headhunter. Jade Skywalker told Jacen that her first lesson would be a flying one, and instructed her to fly the ship to meet her family on Mon Calamari. However, Jade Skywalker was not feeling well, as she had begun to be affected by a mysterious illness. During a diplomatic ceremony on Mon Ortu to witness the accession of the Sunezi 10th Priest Prince, Agapos X, Jade Skywalker served as a bodyguard for one of the attending minor diplomats. Nomanor, a Yuuzhan Vong agent disguised as a head of state, was also present and secretly infected everyone with Coom spores, a deadly bioagent. All those infected perished except for Jade Skywalker, who resisted the disease through the Force, though no permanent cure was found. Before the Yuuzhan Vong invasion began, she accompanied Ambassador Leia Organa Solo and Jacen Solo on a diplomatic mission to Romamul, which was in a civil war with its sister planet Osirian. The meeting failed when Romamul's leader, Nomanor in disguise, lectured Organa Solo and dismissed them, using the meeting to gather information, particularly on Jade Skywalker's condition. The three women returned to Coruscant, where Jade Skywalker suffered another attack of the disease, now in her womb. Meanwhile, her husband had returned from a meeting with the New Republic Advisory Council, and Jade Skywalker advised him about the rash actions of Jedi Knight Worth Skidder, which were destabilizing the situation over Romamul. Back on Romamul, Anor later escalated the conflict into a full-blown war with a missile strike that hit the Mediator and destroyed Osa Prime. Frustrated with Coruscant's government, the Skywalkers and Solos visited Calrissian's outpost on Duel to gather information about Jedi activity in the Outer Rim. Jade Skywalker tested her apprentice's training by having R2 drop her out of hyperspace in a different location from her calculated destination. Jacen Solo successfully navigated back to the rest of the family. When a distress call came from the Exgal 4 outpost on Belkadan, the Skywalkers decided to investigate together. On Belkadan, they discovered an ecological disaster caused by Yuuzhan Vong terraforming. Jade Skywalker sensed her disease was related to the planet's devastation and was the first Jedi to engage a Yuuzhan Vong when Yomin Ka, who had instigated the world's destruction, attacked her. She barely defeated him. Using information from Exgal 4's databanks, they went to the Hska system, where Skywalker was attacked by hostile coral skippers while approaching Hska 4. Jade Skywalker assisted, and they fled to Duel. Skywalker realized he had to return and planned to use one of Calrissian's ice borers to sneak through the planet's icy crust. Jade Skywalker was to pilot the carrier ship but was too weakened by her disease, so the Solo twins took the craft instead. When a New Republic fleet led by the Rejuvenator arrived, the Skywalkers followed the fleet to the Hska system, providing cover for Solo's ice borer while the New Republic fleet suffered heavy losses to the Yuuzhan Vong. After Jacen Solo rescued her brother and Danny Kui from the Vong stronghold, the Skywalkers transferred Kui from the cramped ice borer into the Jade Saber. Discussing the invaders with the young scientist and Jacen Solo, they prepared to return to Hska, accompanied by shield ships and starfighters from Duel, aiming to use the shield ships to melt the planet. Jade Skywalker flew the Jade Saber again, knowing the planet had to be destroyed to kill the Vong inside, despite her worsening condition. During the battle, she collapsed, and Jacen Solo's attempts to take over the controls were in vain. The Jade Saber had already sustained significant damage. Only a last-minute maneuver by Skywalker saved her life when he used his repulsor coils to push the Jade Saber away from the melting ice planet. The shield ships managed to melt the planet, defeating the Preterite Vong. After the battle, Jade Skywalker gradually regained her health as she continued to battle the disease within her. Following the Battle of Hska 4, Jade Skywalker returned to Yavin 4 at Luke Skywalker's request for a Jedi meeting. The meeting concluded with various assignments, and Jade Skywalker was paired with her nephew Anakin Solo on a mission to Dantooine. This mission aimed to help her recover from her illness and scout if Dantooine was on the Yuuzhan Vong invasion path. On Dantooine, Jade Skywalker focused on recuperating and teaching Anakin lessons about respecting the Force, such as not using it frivolously in his dealings with the native Dantari. After several weeks, they discovered the Yuuzhan Vong's arrival on the planet. Anakin had to fend off Yuuzhan Vong hunting parties until they were rescued by Luke Skywalker and Jacen Solo as the Jade Saber had been destroyed. They then participated in the Battle of Dantooine, where Luke asked Jade to stay with Leia and the non-combatants. She agreed without argument, but found herself engaged in combat even in the refugee camp. Sensing 3 Yuuzhan Vong infiltrators in Uglith maskers, she quickly killed them with Leia and her Nogri bodyguard Bolpur's help. Jade Skywalker then sent Leia to find Danny Kui, who could detect Yuuzhan Vong, to search for more infiltrators while she continued checking the camp, killing another warrior. The defenders managed to hold off the Yuuzhan Vong, though at a heavy cost. Once the battle ended and the refugees were evacuated, the Solos and Skywalkers, including Jade, returned to Coruscant with their grim report. Their retreat covered by both an Admiral traced Crefet. On Coruscant, Jade, Corran Horn, Luke and Kip Duran, along with many other Jedi, held another meeting about the Order's role in the war. The Skywalkers and Horn aimed to temper Duran's aggressive stance and his faction, achieving some success. Jade preferred to observe quietly and support her husband from the sidelines. Later, she and Anakin Solo discovered someone accessing files on old Imperial superweapons. The Skywalkers and Anakin quickly deduced that Jedi Knight Deshara Kor was the culprit. They recruited fringe information broker Chalco to help them, as Han Solo was still grieving Chewbacca's death. Realizing Deshara Kor was heading to Vortex to consult former superweapon designer Kui Shu, the trio, along with Mirax Terrick Horn, traveled to Vortex on the Pulsar Skate to intercept the rogue Jedi. On Vortex, the Skywalkers met with Kui Shu, who informed them she had given Deshara Kor no information. During their discussion, Jade Skywalker admitted that under certain circumstances she would use a superweapon, but Shux remained steadfast in her pacifism. Leaving Shux at the Cathedral of Winds, the Skywalkers continued their search on Garrus 4, a planet renowned for its university and extensive database of old Imperial files. To their dismay, they discovered that Deshara Kor had kidnapped Anakin Solo. The Twi'lek Jedi offered to trade Anakin for information on Imperial superweapons. However, Anakin proved difficult to capture and, with Chalco's help, subdued the renegade. Next, the Skywalkers traveled to Ithor, a world soon to become a key battleground in the war. Jade Skywalker did not participate in the releasing ceremony with the other Jedi to commune with the jungle, but enjoyed some quality time with her husband. She confided in Luke that she was ready to face an uncertain future and had long desired to have his child, though she wanted to overcome her illness first. Their peaceful time on Ithor was cut short when Yuuzhan Vong Commander Shadao Shai arrived with a large force, launching a combined air and ground assault on the planet. Despite her weakened state, Jade Skywalker fought valiantly against the Yuuzhan Vong on Ithor's surface. She saved Anakin from the invaders, who were temporarily repelled. The battle for Ithor concluded when Corran Horn challenged and killed Shadao Shai in single combat. However, Shai's subordinate mercilessly destroyed Ithor, despite the duel's outcome. Horn took the blame for the planet's destruction and decided to temporarily leave both the Jedi Order and the New Republic. Jade Skywalker supported Horn's decision despite her husband's objections. On Kashyyyk, during a brief respite from the war, a memorial service was held for Chewbacca. Luke Skywalker, Han and Leia Solo and their 3 children attended, but Mara Jade Skywalker could not be present due to the severity of her illness at that time. The memorial was a somber affair, and during it, Han received one of Chewbacca's bowcasters. Much to Han's surprise, 2 of Chewbacca's relatives offered to take over his life debt to the smuggler and his family, but Han declined, stating he was not yet ready for such a commitment. After the funeral, Skywalker returned to Coruscant to be with Mara. She confided to him that her spirits were dwindling as the war continued. Jade Skywalker had hoped that things would have improved in the galaxy after the treaty with the Empire. While Skywalker had been on Kashyyyk, Mara had visited a resident doctor on Coruscant, who reiterated what she already knew. Her illness was caused by a foreign and unknown composite. There were no known cures or treatments, and the Belkadon beetle Skywalker had recovered was also of an unknown species. However, the discussion quickly shifted to the recent memorial for Chewbacca. Skywalker described the ceremony and his concerns about how Han was coping with Chewbacca's death. Mara reminded her husband of the reasons behind Han's behavior, and assured him that, with space and time, Han's wounds would eventually heal. Meanwhile, the Yuuzhan Vong spy, Priestess Elan, defected to the New Republic with her familiar Vagari, hoping to get close to the gathered Jedi leadership and unleash a deadly virus to wipe out the only real threat to the Yuuzhan Vong's continued success. Once Elan and Vagari defected, they provided valuable information, most notably intelligence on an upcoming attack on Ord Mantell, and the revelation that the Yuuzhan Vong had released a deadly virus into the galaxy long before their invasion. For the Jedi, especially Skywalker, this was the only piece of information that might help Mara fight her illness. However, Elan notified New Republic intelligence that all future information would only be provided if she were allowed to meet with the Jedi leaders to personally deliver more information on the mysterious virus. Skywalker and the Jedi realized that the meeting could be a trap, but also acknowledged that the information might be the only way to cure Mara. The tide of the war, however, managed to overtake the plans for a meeting between the Jedi and Elan. The Queen of Empire, a luxury liner turned refugee transport, came under attack by the Peace Brigade in an effort to capture Elan and return her to the Yuuzhan Vong, unaware of her assassination mission. In the ensuing fight, Han Solo, who was aboard the Queen of Empire, went after Elan and was nearly killed when she tried to exhale some of the deadly virus on him. Elan was eventually killed by her own designs, and Vagari fled via an escape pod, not before providing Han with a vial of tears, instructing that they must reach the Jedi. Though Han worried the tears might be a veiled weapon, he nonetheless provided them to the Jedi, who conducted experiments on them. They found the tears contained tremendous healing properties. Convinced that the tears were an antidote for her illness, Mara took the vial from her husband and squeezed its contents into her mouth. Immediately, Mara began to feel something different throughout her body. The tears were counteracting the illness within her. However, even though her illness appeared to be in remission, the Jedi were unsure if the tears would provide permanent relief. As the Yuuzhan Vong continued their conquest of the galaxy, the planet Kalarba and its moon Hska station eventually came under attack. The Yuuzhan Vong intended to recreate the horror of Cernpidal by pulling the moon into a collision course with the planet. In response, the New Republic dispatched Rogue Squadron to help stem the enemy assault. During the battle, however, Jacen Solo's fighter was destroyed and she was forced to eject. Across the galaxy, many Jedi felt through the Force that something terrible had happened to Jaina. On Duro, Jacen collapsed due to his twin bond with Jaina. Leia, who was also on Duro, felt the same pain Jacen experienced. And on Coruscant, both Skywalkers sensed that something had gone wrong with Jaina, but knew that the situation would be addressed. Meanwhile, the Skywalkers decided to call a meeting of several Jedi, including Anakin Solo and Kenth Hamner on Coruscant, to discuss the current state of the war. Jedi Master Kilgal reported how the war was taking a tremendous toll on life and that the days were growing increasingly long for the Jedi healers. As the meeting progressed, Mara Jade Skywalker began to reflect on the war thus far, how she was forced to abandon the Jade Saber, the fact that her mysterious disease was now in remission after receiving Vagari's tears, and how Anakin had almost single-handedly saved her life during the Battle of Dantooine. Various reports from Jedi regarding their missions were brought forth during the meeting. Jedi apprentice Tekli informed the Skywalkers that she had overheard some talk in a local tap cafe, the Leafy Green, which suggested the presence of Yuuzhan Vong infiltrators wearing Uglith maskers. Tekli believed that the matter should be investigated by a Jedi with more experience in such things. It was eventually decided that Anakin would investigate the claims under the watchful eye of Jade Skywalker. Shortly thereafter, Mara Jade Skywalker and Anakin departed for the Leafy Green, continuing her lessons on spying and infiltration with Anakin along the way. They arrived at the Tap Cafe and found a table that allowed them to survey the establishment while still providing a quick escape route. It did not take long for them to spot a being whose presence and composure seemed out of place. Using the Force to probe their quarry, they quickly learned that the being gave off no signature in the living Force. Not wanting to apprehend the Yuuzhan Vong spy in the midst of a large crowd, Jade, Skywalker and Anakin finished their meals and followed the spy as he left the Tap Cafe. They tailed the spy and eventually cornered him in an alleyway. What ensued was a fierce but brief fight during which the spy attacked with a hidden amphistaff. Jade Skywalker managed to knock the spy to the ground after discovering that she could kill the amphistaff with a blow to the center of its head. Realizing that the Yuuzhan Vong were almost immune to the effects of a blaster set on stun, she ended the fight with a quick jab to the spy's temple. With the Yuuzhan Vong now unconscious, Jade Skywalker and Anakin took the captured spy back for interrogation and study. Jade Skywalker handed the captured Yuuzhan Vong over to Tilgal and the exobiologist Dr. Joy Ikroth, who proceeded to secure the spy to a table for further examination. During this process, the spy regained consciousness and used a hidden claw in its hand to slice through some of the table restraints. Though Anakin was prepared to kill the spy with his lightsaber to protect everyone present, Jade Skywalker shouted at him to stop. The Yuuzhan Vong then chose to slit its own throat with its claw, preferring death over captivity by the Jedi. Both Jade Skywalker and Anakin were disappointed by the spy's death, feeling that their efforts had been in vain. However, Skywalker reflected that they had managed to eliminate a Yuuzhan Vong infiltrator and discovered a way to kill amphistaffs by targeting the snakehead's crest. Later, the Skywalkers were asked to meet with various leaders of the New Republic's military. During the meeting, they were briefed by Ida Nilikirka, the Chief of Fleet Intelligence, on the recent losses to the Yuuzhan Vong, notably the planets Kalaba, Druckenwell, and Faline. He mentioned that even if the New Republic could defend and hold Rhodia, the Corellian run would still be cut off. The war seemed to be worsening for the New Republic and the Jedi. Additionally, they were informed that, after the debacle with Centerpoint Station during the Battle of Fondor, the immense weapon was now out of commission, a fact being kept a closely guarded secret. The meeting soon devolved into an anti-Jedi debate. Facing harsh scrutiny and blame for the war, the Skywalkers chose to leave the meeting rather than let it continue. After the disastrous meeting with the military leaders, the Skywalkers retired to their home, where they were met by Jedi Master Tresina Lobi. She expressed her concern that her apprentice, Thrini Vai, was in trouble, having not been heard from since her mission to the planet Duro. The Skywalkers shared her worry and decided that they, along with Anakin, would travel to Duro to investigate. After Master Lobi left, Jade Skywalker suddenly felt an unsettling change in her body chemistry, fearing her illness was making a concerted effort to resurge. However, upon probing with the Force, she sensed a small piece of life inside her, carrying Skywalker's essence. Jade Skywalker was shocked to discover that she was pregnant. The Skywalkers and Anakin traveled to Duro in the Jade Shadow, planning to dock at one of Duro's many orbital cities. During their journey, they overheard a man speaking against the Republic and the Jedi. His rhetoric and mannerisms eerily resembled those of Nom Anor, whom they had believed dead on Romamul. They doubted that it could be Nom Anor and continued to their destination on the planet's surface. Upon arrival, they met up with Leia, who was managing the growing refugee crisis on Duro. While the others pursued their missions, Jade Skywalker, in disguise, blended into the refugee population and accessed a computer terminal hardwired into the planet's control and information systems. Using her slicing skills, she searched for information on the disappearance of Thrini Vai and stumbled upon a familiar military code that she had only seen used by Nom Anor on Romamul. This discovery heightened Jade Skywalker's concerns, and she quickly disconnected from the terminal to inform Leia and Jaina. Leia shared her suspicions that a local doctor, Dasid Kriar, might be collaborating with the Yuuzhan Vong and possibly connected to Anor. Jade Skywalker decided to investigate Kriar with Jaina's help. Disguised as Baroness Mewling and her servant, they visited Kriar's laboratory. During their meeting, Jade Skywalker distracted Kriar with questions while Jaina probed him through the Force, discovering that he gave off no presence in the living Force. Convinced he was a Yuuzhan Vong spy, Jaina used the Force to manipulate the points of the Uglith Masker, eventually unmasking Nom Anor. He had been sabotaging New Republic efforts on Duro under the guise of Dasid Kriar. Ithor taunted Jade Skywalker, revealing that he had infected her with the deadly Coom spore. Though she tried to provoke him into a fight, Ithor fled. Jade Skywalker and Jaina pursued him, but Ithor set off bombs in the underground tunnels, trapping the Jedi. Using the Force, they projected a protective bubble around themselves and escaped unharmed. Returning to their family, Jade Skywalker informed her husband of her discoveries about Nomanor, Duro, and her illness. However, the planet soon became the next target of the Yuuzhan Vong. During the ensuing conflict, War Master Savong La warned that any ships fleeing the system would be destroyed. Despite this, Jade Skywalker and the others advised the refugees to choose between surrendering or fighting. The battle turned into a rout for the New Republic. The Skywalkers used the Jade Shadow to evacuate refugees, and many ships tried unsuccessfully to defend the orbital stations. Ultimately, Duro fell to the Yuuzhan Vong. During their retreat from Duro, Jade Skywalker received a vision through the Force revealing that her baby was a boy. The Skywalkers then returned to Coruscant to inform the New Republic leaders of Duro's fall. When Leia returned from Duro to Coruscant for medical treatment for her leg injuries inflicted by Savong La during her brief captivity, the Skywalkers and the Solo children were there to support her during her recovery. While on Coruscant, Skywalker witnessed the failure of the anti-Jedi appeasement vote by a 2-to-1 margin, but was still concerned that a third of the Senate voted against the Jedi. She was also present with Leia and Skywalker when her husband conceptualized the Great River Network, which the Solos would later help the Skywalkers create as a secret pipeline to safely transport the Jedi. After suffering humiliation at the hands of Jacen Solo, who had freed Leia and injured him, Savong La issued a call for the heads of all the Jedi, leading to many being turned over to the Yuuzhan Vong by Peace Brigade collaborators. Jade Skywalker was experiencing some of the more unpleasant side effects of pregnancy, including morning sickness and mood swings. After the Jedi Academy on Yavin came under attack, with Anakin Solo trying to protect it, the Skywalkers, Jacen and Jaina, requested New Republic assistance from Borsk Failure, but were flatly denied by the self-serving Bothan, who also declared Yavin off-limits to the Jedi. To help Carter in his attempts to get all the Jedi off the planet, the Skywalkers sent Jacen and Jaina in the Jade Shadow to find Booster Terek and the errant Venture and request their aid. Jade Skywalker wanted to undertake the mission herself, but Skywalker decided against it, as Failure was sure to be watching their movements and would know if they had defied his orders. Instead, Anakin Solo sneaked off the planet, and Jade Skywalker recruited Card's help to get the trainees away from the beleaguered academy. During Jade Skywalker's 8th month of pregnancy, while still on Coruscant, her husband took her to an artificial beach that Lando Calrissian owned, and had offered for their use. They discussed potential names for their child, agreeing not to discuss the war, the Jedi, politics, or the Yuuzhan Vong. However, their leisure time was interrupted by the visit of Jedi Knight Kenth Hamner. Hamner informed them that Failure had just issued a warrant for their arrest, citing evidence of their involvement in the Yavin system after being forbidden to interfere there. However, Hamner explained that Failure had no intention of actually placing them on trial, instead planning to send them into exile to avoid responsibility for their unsanctioned actions. Jade Skywalker was incensed, but before she could react further, she collapsed. According to the MD-10 droid that examined her, the artificial tears she had been using after exhausting Verger's supply were causing placental toxic shock, endangering her unborn son. Jade Skywalker refused to be admitted to a medical center, noting that it was their only chance to escape arrest. The Skywalkers and Hamner returned to their apartments, where they met with healer Chilgal and noted physician Ism Ulos. They determined that the synthesized tears were a danger to her child, but that for now, the baby was healthy. Jade Skywalker decided not to induce labor, and resolved not to take any more tears for the final month of her pregnancy. Kilgal requested to accompany them off Coruscant, and Jade Skywalker gratefully accepted. Using a few mind tricks and blank memories, the Jedi boarded the Jade Shadow and lifted off, meeting with Jaina, who was flying her X-Wing on their way to orbit. They quickly repelled a group of interceptors, and although Rogue Squadron offered to escort them, the Skywalkers declined, fearing that military aid would result in a coup and total instability in the New Republic. Instead, they escaped to the errant Venture, where Jade Skywalker was bedridden. Her physical discomfort had returned, as had her illness. Kilgul discovered that Jade Skywalker's disease was spreading 5 times faster than before. With Jade Skywalker using all of her force, effort, and energy to keep the disease from her son, the rest of her body was deteriorating rapidly. As she lay dying on the errant venture, she, Skywalker, and their unborn son joined minds and purged the disease from her body together, once and for all. Shortly after that, their child was born, and the Skywalkers named him Ben. Failure called to inform them that the warrant for their arrest had been cancelled, while Kam Solusar and Tion reported they had found a safe world in the deep core to use as a Jedi refuge, Eclipse. Throughout the war, 2 Twi'lek Jedi Knights, Alema and Numara, led a fierce resistance on the planet New Plimto. However, they were forced to retreat when the Yuuzhan Vong decided to annihilate the planet to eliminate the resistance. The sisters escaped aboard the ship Nebula Chaser, but were eventually discovered by a Yuuzhan Vong search party utilizing newly created Voxin creatures designed to hunt Jedi. Numa was killed by one of these beasts, while Alema managed to flee in an escape pod. At the same time, Jade Skywalker and Jacen Solo on the Jade Shadow rescued Alema Rar and brought her back to Skywalker and the other Jedi for a full debriefing on the events that had transpired. Following Rar's rescue, the New Republic launched a mission to the planet Talio, where the Yuuzhan Vong were holding prisoners and threatening to execute them unless the location of Eclipse Station was revealed. While the New Republic planned a massive rescue operation, the Skywalkers and several other Jedi developed a secondary plan to capture a Yuuzhan Vong war coordinator. During the execution of Operation Safe Passage, Jade Skywalker devised a strategy for the Republic forces to target the lead Yuuzhan Vong cruiser, while Jedi starfighters with their sublight engines shut off, launched shadow bombs at a skip carrier, continuously deploying enemy fighters. The tactic succeeded, and both Yuuzhan Vong ships were destroyed. Additionally, the Jedi's secondary plan was successful in capturing the Yuuzhan Vong Yamosk war coordinator, present during the battle. Meanwhile, Anakin Solo led a Jedi strike team on an assault on Mirka's Voxin cloning facility. Although the mission was ultimately successful, it came at a high cost. Several Jedi Knights, including Anakin, were killed in the fierce fighting. Anakin's death resonated deeply, felt by his mother Leia and the Skywalkers halfway across the galaxy. The Yuuzhan Vong soon launched their invasion of Coruscant. Despite combining forces with General Wedge Antilles' Fleet Group 3, the Jedi were severely outnumbered by Savong La's invasion fleet. Although the Jedi managed to destroy several enemy Yamosks and La's flagship, the Sunulok, they suffered heavy losses in their starfighter wing. During this massive battle, the Skywalkers learned that Vicky Shesh had kidnapped their infant son, Ben. The Skywalkers immediately withdrew from the space battle to rescue him. En route, Jade Skywalker's fighter was shot down, crashing into Coruscant's cityscape. Fortunately, she was unharmed. Meanwhile, Lando Calrissian YVH-11A and C-3PO successfully recovered Ben and took him off Coruscant, eventually reuniting him with his parents. Once assured of Ben's safety, the Skywalkers joined Leia and Han in defending Coruscant with a surface turbo laser battery. However, the intensity of the Yuuzhan Vong invasion soon overwhelmed the Republic defenders. Alongside Han and Leia, the Skywalkers boarded the Falcon and escaped as the Yuuzhan Vong fleet continued their conquest. In the aftermath of Coruscant's fall, the Skywalkers reunited with the rest of the Solo and Skywalker family on Hapes to pay their last respects to the late Anakin. Jade Skywalker found herself estranged from Jaina, who, overcome with grief from her brother's death, adopted the persona of the Yuuzhan Vong trickster goddess. Despite this, they parted on good terms, ending their master-apprentice relationship. While Jaina apprenticed herself to Kip Durran, Jade Skywalker focused on her motherly duties. Shortly after the Yuuzhan Vong captured Coruscant, Jade Skywalker, her husband, and a few other Jedi traveled to Borleas to establish a staging point for refugees. However, she aimed to minimize her role in the war to be with and protect her son. While on Borleas, General Wedge Antilles appointed her as head of intelligence for all in-system forces, giving her command over Borleas ground-based personnel. She held the position until New Republic intelligence agent Iela Wesiri arrived on the planet. Around that time, Jade Skywalker reluctantly left her son Ben to scout the Vong terraforming activities on Coruscant with Skywalker, Jedi apprentice Tahiri Vela, Dantooine, and Wraith Squadron. The group explored the devastated capital, evading Yuuzhan Vong patrols and making contact with survivors. Skywalker led them past a Red Devourer tank into a secret chamber, where Jade Skywalker's knowledge of old Imperial codes allowed them access to a secret laboratory. In this lab, Irek Ismaran had been turned into a mutant cyborg Dark Jedi known as Lord Nyax. Haunted by Nyax's mental commands, the three Jedi pursued the deranged Dark Jedi to stop him. Jade Skywalker almost abandoned the pursuit upon seeing the traitorous Senator Viki Shesh with a group of Yuuzhan Vong, but Skywalker convinced her to continue. Together, Skywalker, Vela, and Jade Skywalker eliminated the threat of Lord Nyax before he could endanger the Jedi Order and the Republic. Upon returning to Borleus, Jade Skywalker became the second in command of Black Moon Squadron under her husband. Together they provided cover for the Lusankya during Operation Emperor's Spear in the final stages of the battle for Borleus. This operation resulted in a Pyrrhic victory for the Yuuzhan Vong and another retreat for the New Republic. Husband and wife then traveled to the provisional capital of Mon Calamari, where Jade Skywalker and Councillor Trebak persuaded Alderaanian Senator Cal Omas to run for Chief of State. During his campaign, Jade Skywalker supported Omas as a private citizen, working diligently to ensure the pro-Jedi candidate's success. She also assisted Skywalker and Omas in formulating a new plan for the High Council, an advisory body for the Jedi consisting of 6 Jedi and 6 non-Jedi members. Later, she was with Skywalker when Jacen arrived with Vergere after escaping Yuuzhan Vong captivity. Her responsibilities shifted when Calrissian and Karda joined Omas' campaign, and she began using YVHM droids to detect Yuuzhan Vong infiltrators, finding satisfaction in her work. While trailing a pair of disguised Yuuzhan Vong, she observed them taking a submersible. Renting another underwater craft, she followed and prevented them from assassinating Omas and Trebak by nearly ramming their vehicle and tricking their torpedo to hit their own craft. Omas later won the election, becoming the new Chief of State. With Omas's election, the High Council was established with Jade Skywalker as one of its founding members. Shortly afterwards, she learned about the genocidal bioweapon Alpha Red, designed to destroy the Yuuzhan Vong. The Skywalkers opposed its use, as it would mean the slaughter of an entire culture and further escalate the war. Vergere overheard their discussion and used her tears to neutralize the weapon, temporarily halting Alpha Red. In the 3-month delay caused by Vergere's actions, the New Republic implemented Akbar's plan for a series of limited engagements, followed by a trap at Ebak 9. While Skywalker recruited the aid of Gambel Iblis and his fleet, Jade Skywalker worked with New Republic intelligence on Mon Calamari to carefully leak information to Yuuzhan Vong spies, leading them to believe that Jedi Knights and government officials were in the isolated Deep Core system. This resulted in the decisive Battle of Ebak, which Jade Skywalker, Winter Kelchu, and Akbar observed from Fleet Command on Mon Calamari. After the victory at Ebak 9, Cal Omas convened a meeting of key Jedi and government officials, including Jade Skywalker. Omas aimed to launch missions to reconnect the administration with parts of the galaxy that had been isolated. Skywalker suggested diplomatic missions to the Chiss and the Imperial Remnant to integrate them into the Galactic Alliance, though his true intent was to search for the living planet Zonoma Sekot near the unknown regions. Jade Skywalker agreed to accompany her husband on the Jade Shadow, along with Dantooine, Saboteur, Tekli, R2-D2, and Jacen Solo. Before departing, the Skywalkers checked on Tahiri Vela, who was dealing with injuries and conflicting personalities due to her earlier Yuuzhan Vong captivity. Although they wished to stay and help Tahiri, their mission's departure was imminent, and they had to prepare, including consulting Jagged Fell for advice on Chiss protocol. Dropping out of hyperspace near the imperial capital of Bastion, they arrived in the midst of the Battle of Bastion. After performing a micro-jump toward the retreating Imperial fleet, Jade Skywalker informed Imperial Admiral Gilad Pellaeon of the location of a Yamsk carrier. Following Pellaeon's request, they withdrew the Jade Shadow to Yaga Minor with most of the Imperial fleet. Despite a challenging reception from Commander Ketan and Moff Curlin Flennick, they met Pellaeon's protege, Captain Arian Yarge, who was more welcoming. With Pellaeon barely alive upon arrival, the remnant was less accommodating, prompting Jade Skywalker to withdraw the Jade Shadow while Jacen negotiated with the hardliners. Fortunately, Pellaeon recovered enough to resume command, and with the Jedi's assistance, planned the Battle of Borosk. Jade Skywalker participated in the battle aboard her beloved Jade Shadow, accompanied by Danny Kui, as part of Saba Sebatine's plan to free Imperial prisoners from a slave carrier vessel in the Yuuzhan Vong fleet, attacking Borosk. She docked the Jade Shadow in the bay of an old Imperial dreadnought, which was heavily automated and modified to be sacrificial, and approached the slave carrier. Once Kui and Sabatine disabled the ship and released the prisoners, Jade Skywalker used the Shadow's tractor beam to bring them into the dreadnought's hangar bay and retrieved the two females. The damaged dreadnought then jumped to hyperspace, successfully completing its mission until the battle concluded and the Yuuzhan Vong forces withdrew. Before leaving the remnant, Jade Skywalker and other Jedi attended a meeting with Pellaeon and the Moff Council, where she thwarted Flennick's assassination attempt on Pellaeon. They then departed Imperial space for Chiss territory, escorted by an Imperial frigate, the Widowmaker, commanded by Captain Yeague. As the expedition moved toward Chiss space, they were eventually contacted by a group of the enigmatic blue aliens over Munlali Mafir. The Chiss party requested that they visit Chilla for authorization to travel through Chiss space, and Jade Skywalker agreed that it was the most prudent course of action. Arriving at the icy planet of Chilla, the Jade Shadow landed, and Jade Skywalker, along with the other crew members, met with Commander Irolia, Chief Navigator Abe, and members of the Chiss ruling families. Although the Chiss leadership denied them access to Chiss space, they permitted them to peruse the expansionary fleet library on Chilla for information. The Skywalkers were escorted to the library by Soontir Fel, where they began their research. After hours of searching, the Skywalkers, Sabatine and Kui decided to return to the Jade Shadow, with the Fels on an ice barge to rest. En route back to the spaceport, they were attacked by rivals of the Fels in airspeeders. Pretending to surrender, the group waited until their assailants landed and announced their intentions of killing them. At that point, the group sprang into action, and Jade Skywalker helped take down two of the Chiss, before commandeering an airspeeder to provide cover for the ice barge. Continuing to the spaceport, Jade Skywalker then brought the Jade Shadow closer to the library. Soon afterward, Kui and Jacen had a flash of insight and refined their search to include captured moons instead of just planets, discovering a mention of the living planet. Jacen surmised that Zonoma Sekot was hiding in the Classe Ephemera system. Jade Skywalker led the Jade Shadow and the Widowmaker to the system, but hyperspace disturbances prevented them from jumping directly into it. This frustrated Jade Skywalker, who wanted to find Zonoma Sekot and return home to Ben. Shortly after Jacen discovered that their communications to Mon Calamari had been cut off, the crew of the Jade Shadow sensed a disturbance in the Force emanating from Zonoma Sekot. Kui, Jacen, Skywalker, Sabatine, Tekli, and Jade Skywalker joined minds in a Force meld to help Jade Skywalker trace the disturbance as she piloted the Shadow toward its source, with the Widowmaker following behind. On their third jump, they finally reached a clear path through hyperspace and arrived to find Zonoma Sekot orbiting a gas giant repelling a small Yuuzhan Vong war fleet. Just as they arrived, a wave of psychic energy hit the craft, knocking the crew unconscious. After Jade Skywalker awoke, she flew the ship to the landing coordinates provided by the planet to Jacen. The Skywalkers disembarked on the planet and met Jabitha, the planet's magister. The native Pharaohs informed them that they were not welcome, but Jabitha invited them to explain their journey at the village. However, Jade Skywalker was displeased when Sekot's native plants rapidly grew over the Shadow, trapping it beneath coils of foliage. After a long march to the Pharaohan village, the crew of the Jade Shadow was offered a dwelling and an opportunity to address Jabitha and the Pharaohan elders. During their address, Jade Skywalker warned the planet that the Yuuzhan Vong had found it, and would eventually overwhelm its powerful defenses with sheer numbers. After hearing her, Skywalker and Jacen Jabitha agreed to discuss their request for Zonoma Sekot's aid in the war with the Pharaohan elders, reconvening the next day. However, their party was attacked during the night by Pharaohans who collapsed their dwelling and kidnapped Qui. Jade Skywalker was more than mildly displeased, but Jacen and Saboteur pursued the kidnappers, leaving the Skywalkers to deal with the other Pharaohan villagers. Jade Skywalker demanded explanations for the attack and was met with denials and excuses. Additionally, Jabitha had also been taken by the assailants, preventing them from speaking with her. Jade Skywalker was also disturbed by reports of gravitic waves from a nearby moon, possibly indicating a Yuuzhan Vong starship. However, the entire kidnapping and the supposed Yuuzhan Vong coral skipper turned out to be a test from Zonoma Sekot to assess the visitors. The Jedi passed the test by refusing to condone aggressive action. Skywalker did not allow Widowmaker to destroy the suspected coral skipper, and Jacen did not kill the kidnappers when given a chance. Sekot then agreed to aid them in the war, preparing itself for a return to known space. The planet also revealed that a Yuuzhan Vong ship had survived the initial attack they had witnessed upon arriving in the system, escaping the defenses. While the Skywalkers' party was on Zonoma Sekot, the Yuuzhan Vong priest Hara, Nomanor, disguised as the Shamed One leader Hska, Tahiri Vela, Shaper Nenyim and Corran Horn landed on another part of the planet. Nomanor betrayed his companions by killing Nenyim, wounding Hara and sabotaging Sekot's planetary hyperdrives. He then called in a landing craft of Yuuzhan Vong warriors to pick him up and escape. However, the Skywalkers and Jacen arrived in the Jade Shadow, fending off the warriors and nearly killing Anor, though he managed to escape. After picking up Vela and Horn, they fled the area. Sekot then activated its hyperdrives, trying to contain and repair the damage caused by Nomanor. Jade Skywalker stayed on Sekot as it hurtled through hyperspace, working to regain control over its hyperdrive mechanisms. The planet sustained moderate surface damage, and the Jedi mostly remained in shelters to avoid the severe atmospheric and seismic disturbances. The Skywalkers also learned from Danny Qui that Harar, believed dead, was still alive. She and the other Jedi visited Harar, who was being healed by Vela and Tekli. Harar revealed that Zonoma Sekot had many similarities to Yuuzhan Ta, the ancestral home of the Yuuzhan Vong, and that Supreme Overlord Shimra feared the planet. He expressed his desire to reconcile the Yuuzhan Vong with the rest of the galaxy and work to end the war, though he admitted that Shimra would not listen to reason. The group then traveled to a force nexus in a lava tube, where Sekot deduced that the Yuuzhan Vong of antiquity had been stripped of the force. Meanwhile, the other Jedi on Mon Calamari grew concerned about their out-of-contact members on Zonoma Sekot. As they remained on Sekot, unaware of their location or their estimated time of arrival, Jade Skywalker began worrying about her son, wishing to be with him. Additionally, Skywalker's visions of the future didn't necessarily show her. In response, she made him promise to take care of Ben if anything happened to her. Soon after, Zonoma Sekot emerged from hyperspace near Coruscant. Jade Skywalker joyfully reunited with her family and loved ones when Han and Leia arrived aboard the Falcon with a full crew of Jedi, including Mirax Horn from the errant venture. The Skywalkers then traveled to Contruum in the Jade Shadow, accompanied by the errant venture, to meet with Galactic Alliance officials. The military and politicians informed them of their plans for a decisive strike at Coruscant. Skywalker promised the aid of the Jedi, though many had remained on Zonoma Sekot to bond with the new Sekotan craft being grown for them. As the recapture of Coruscant unfolded, with Yuuzhan Vong forces engaging the Galactic Alliance fleets and others attacking Zonoma Sekot, Jade Skywalker joined a strike team on the Millennium Falcon to Coruscant's surface. The group, including the Solos, Skywalkers, Tahiri Vela, and Kenth Hamner, aimed to stop the World Brain from devastating the planet and to neutralize Shimra. They advanced slowly towards his citadel, though Hamner and Vela detached to assist the Shamed Ones, a pariah caste of Yuuzhan Vong revolting against the warriors. Before breaching the citadel, Skywalker asked his wife to accompany Vela and Hamner to aid the Shamed Ones. Reluctantly agreeing, she fought through swarms of warriors with the two Jedi and galactic troops, reaching a group of embattled Shamed Ones, including Nomanor. In the heat of combat, Jade Skywalker and Vela confronted Nomanor, Vader seized him, but he slashed at her with his coffee and temporarily escaped. Jade Skywalker pursued him relentlessly through the ruins of Imperial City. Cornering him, she deactivated her weapon and beat him with unarmed combat. As she stood over him with her lightsaber ready to deliver the death blow, Ithor begged for mercy. She allowed him to live, but forced him to show her an entrance to Shimra's citadel. Leading a small group of shamed ones, Ithor escorted her, Vader, and Hamna inside the fortress, where they fought numerous Yuuzhan Vong warriors and saved Han, Leia, R2-D2, C-3PO, and the Noghri from capture. Jade Skywalker's group penetrated the sanctum of the world brain, prepared to use explosives if necessary. However, Jacen communicated with the brain via his Vong sense, convincing it to ignore Shimra's commands. As the Shamed Ones and Galactic Alliance forces secured the lower levels of the Citadel, Jade Skywalker had Ithor lead them to the coffer at the top, where Skywalker, Jacen, and Jaina were battling the Supreme Overlord and his bodyguards. Near the top, Jade Skywalker found her husband envenomed by Shimra's amphistaff after beheading Shimra in the same manner his father killed Count Dooku years earlier. She immediately attended to her weakening husband, while Han, Leia, and Ithor searched for Jacen and Jaina, who had gone after Shimra's familiar enemy. Jade Skywalker and Vader brought Skywalker down and out of the Citadel. A Shamed One who had been a Shaper offered to help prolong Skywalker's life, and Jade Skywalker allowed it. At that point, Shimra's escape vessel with Onimi, Jacen, Jaina, Han, and Leia aboard launched. Jade Skywalker loaded Skywalker onto the Falcon and pursued the vessel, accompanied by Hera, Vader, and Hamna, with Jagged Fell flying escort. After Jacen defeated Onimi, the Solos fled the dying vessel in a Yuuzhan Vong landing craft. Skywalker picked them up, and Jacen used his tears to heal Skywalker, much as Vagari had done for Jade Skywalker earlier. The Skywalkers returned to Zonoma Sekot, as the battle ended in Galactic Alliance victory and a Yuuzhan Vong withdrawal. While Skywalker recovered, Jade Skywalker retrieved her precious Jade Shadow and spent the next few weeks on the planet, repairing her ship and resting. With Shimra's death and War Master Naschoka's surrender, the war ended. Skywalker called a meeting of the Jedi on Zonoma Sekot and announced plans for a new academy on Ossus where the Skywalkers intended to move. However, they first went on a vacation with Han and Leia, finally free from the specter of galactic war. In the years following the war, Jade Skywalker dedicated herself fully to the Jedi Order, splitting her time between the Jedi Academy on Ossus and the new Jedi Temple on Coruscant. She became a strong advocate for the belief that the Jedi were not automatically obligated to the Galactic Alliance, finding herself ironically aligned with Kip Durran and at odds with others such as Kenth Hamner and her old friend Corran Horn. During this period, Jade Skywalker's main focus was her family, her husband and, perhaps even more importantly, her young son Ben. She was committed to being a loving mother and to safeguarding her son's childhood innocence. Her protectiveness was intensified by the fact that Ben had severed his connection to the Force, apparently due to trauma during his infancy when he couldn't shield himself from the pain and suffering of the war-torn galaxy. However, Ben's ongoing withdrawal also caused her some distress, as she felt his failure to develop Jedi abilities was a disappointment to her husband. In 35 ABY, the Order received news from Chiss envoys that a group of rogue Jedi, including Jade Skywalker's former apprentice Jacen Solo, had allied with the hive-minded Killicks in a border dispute with the Chiss. The three Skywalkers journeyed to the unknown regions to investigate. They discovered that the rogue Jedi had been responding to former Jedi Raynar Thul, now assimilated by the Killicks and known as Unathul, the all-powerful King Bee of their hegemony, the colony. The mission was partially successful. Although the rogue Jedi had been partially assimilated by the Tartnest, most were persuaded to return to Alliance space. However, on Yogoi, the Skywalkers were attacked by mysterious blue-black Killicks, which Unathul seemed unaware of. These were Gorog Killicks, part of the Darknest, a shadowy influence able to hide its presence and malignant influence from the rest of the colony. As the Jedi returned to Alliance space, a Gorog assassin stowed away aboard the Jade Shadow. The creature befriended Ben, who considered it a pet. Secretly, the Gorog insect began to brainwash the child, aiming to turn him against Jade Skywalker and make him a joiner, a human drone of the Darknest. Back on Ossus, Jade Skywalker uncovered the plot, but the Gurog assassin escaped, along with the Twi'lek Jedi Alima Ra, who had been thoroughly assimilated by the Gurog hive. Confronted by the Gurog assassin over her own past as an Imperial assassin, Jade Skywalker found herself torn between preserving her son's innocence and protecting him from harm. Ultimately, her duty as a Jedi to protect the galaxy aligned with the latter. Returning to the unknown regions as part of a Jedi strike team, she fought in the Battle of Ka, where she engaged in single combat with the Gurog assassin. Knowing the creature was threatening to share its battle experience with Ben, she decided he would have to learn to handle the realities of conflict, and quickly killed the creature. However, in the closing stages of the battle, she was severely injured by a Gurog larva and received treatment from Kilick healers before being placed in Bacta aboard a Hapan warship that had intervened to create a peaceful settlement. Mara Jade Skywalker also allowed her nephew Jacen Solo to become Ben's mentor, recognizing that Jacen could encourage Ben to reconnect with the Force. With the Dark Nest apparently destroyed, Jade Skywalker and her family once again found peace. Eventually, the Skywalkers were summoned back to Kilick space by Unutul, who offered an explanation for why the Skywalkers and Solos were attacked during their initial visit to the colony. According to Unutul, Gurog had specifically targeted Jade Skywalker from the first attack on Yogoi because it was founded by the wife and daughter of a man named Daxar Is. Jade Skywalker then explained that Daxar Is had been one of her early targets as the Emperor's hand. When his wife and daughter disturbed her at the murder scene, she had told them to flee. Unutul claimed that they later became Gurog joiners, shaping the Dark Nest around their determination to hide from Jade Skywalker and possibly seeking revenge against her. Unutul's knowledge of the Is family was suspicious, and Alema Ra, now the Gurog Knight Herald, later claimed that the memories of Daxar Is's daughter, Eremai, were the source for Gurog's overrides for R2 series astromech droids. This enabled her to taunt Skywalker with more of R2-D2's recordings of his parents. Playing on the idea that the Dark Nest was a consequence of Jade Skywalker's past actions, Ra further attempted to divide the Skywalkers by suggesting that Jade Skywalker, in her role as Palpatine's assassin, might have been responsible for killing Skywalker's mother. However, subsequent events confirmed the Jedi's earlier suspicions. The Dark Nest had been shaped in its current form by Lomi Plo, a former Night Sister and a Dark Jedi of the Second Imperium. While Skywalker and Han Solo were held captive by the Kilicks on Watiba, Jade Skywalker returned to Ossus with Leia and the rest of their group. Following this, she adopted a more militant stance, advocating for Unutul's assassination without hesitation, and leading a stealth X-flight into the Utegetu Nebula to bypass the blockade imposed by the Galactic Alliance. Although Skywalker was eventually rescued, the colony broke the blockade and launched an offensive against both the Alliance and the Chiss, marking the beginning of the Swarm War. Jade Skywalker returned to the Jedi Academy on Ossus with her husband, who sent a powerful force call to the entire Jedi Order. Although she was concerned for his health after a week of intense meditation in the Meditation Pavilion, she fully supported his decision to grant himself the title of Jedi Grandmaster and assume full control of the Jedi Order. She alone was aware of his plans before the meeting. Shortly after the announcement, the Skywalkers were guests of Unutul's mother, Aren Thul, head of the Bornaran trading empire, who attempted to negotiate for her son's safety. She also gifted them with the droid R20, the prototype for the R2 series astromech droid. This droid later allowed Slicer Zacharis Gent to access hidden files in R2-D2's memory, including a recording of the young Darth Vader strangling his wife. When Skywalker, Jade Skywalker, and Jacen viewed the holograms, their interpretations of the scenes differed. Jade Skywalker was disturbed by Anakin Skywalker's anger and threatening behavior, while Jacen saw no issue with his grandfather's actions. Skywalker was forced to confront his doubts about his father Anakin's involvement in the death of his mother, Padme. Additionally, tensions grew between the trio when Jade Skywalker confronted Jacen about performing a memory wipe on Ben. Jacen provided a false explanation that it was for Ben's protection, concealing the fact that he had fathered a daughter with Tenel Ka DJO. During the Battle of Sam, Jade Skywalker was part of the Jedi Force attacking a Kilick nest ship. She was the first to reach an injured Jacen Solo and made a heroic effort to rescue him from the wreckage of his stealth X. When Jacen regained consciousness, he joined Jade Skywalker in protecting Skywalker's flanks as he battled the deformed Dark Jedi Lomi Plo. Jade Skywalker sustained a serious injury when a shattergun pellet ripped through her vac suit and destroyed one of her kidneys. Her month-long recuperation period meant she would not see any more action during the Swarm War. When she learned that her husband planned to face Lomi Plo and Raynar Thal alone, she became fearful for his fate. Jacen then used a Falanasi mirror illusion technique to disturbingly fake Jade Skywalker's death, demonstrating to Skywalker his vulnerability to fear. Shortly thereafter, the three viewed the hologram of Padme's final moments, which steeled Skywalker for battle and influenced him to reject Verger's teachings. Skywalker's confidence and trust in his wife were reaffirmed by the revelation that she had no role in Padme's death. Skywalker ultimately killed Lomi Plo and brought Thule back to the Galactic Alliance, albeit under heavy sedation. Jade Skywalker was still in rehabilitation at the conclusion of the Swarm War. In 40 ABY, a civil war erupted between the Galactic Alliance and Corellia. Jade Skywalker's son Ben and nephew Jacen were sent to Adumar, where they uncovered a secret missile factory. These dangerous missions, undertaken as the crisis escalated, amplified her fears for her family's safety, especially for Ben, her only son. When the Galactic Alliance arranged peace talks with Corellia in the Quat system, Jade Skywalker accompanied her family to Toriaz Station. Soon after, the group was attacked by drugged Corellian commandos. Although the attack was thwarted, Corellian Prime Minister Adel Saxon was assassinated, enraging Corellia and halting all peace talks. Later, Jade Skywalker joined her husband on a mission to kidnap Thraken Sal Solo, head of state of Corellia. After breaching the planet's security, Jade Skywalker infiltrated Sal Solo's mansion, rescuing Jedi Knight Tiu Zax, who had previously infiltrated the structure. They conducted further reconnaissance inside the mansion. Meanwhile, Skywalker visited Corran Horn and the newly built Jedi facility on Corellia, housing new Jedi initiates. They managed to save Jaina's and Vela's team and escort them to safety. After the mission, they returned to Coruscant. While there, Jade Skywalker battled a twisted Force ghost of Ben, not realizing it was a physical Force projection of her son, and caught him off guard with a kick to the midsection. As the Second Galactic Civil War intensified, Cal Omas asked Jade Skywalker to lead a new paramilitary organization aimed at cracking down on Corellian insurgents and terrorists on Coruscant. When she declined, the command was given to Jacen Solo. She and her husband, along with the other Jedi Masters, were dismayed to see Ben and Jacen participating in GAG raids and did not approve of it. Despite Skywalker's deep concerns about Jacen Solo and his influence on Ben, Jade Skywalker was the only family member, besides Ben, who trusted Jacen. She correctly perceived that her nephew was secretly torn over someone he loved, but she wrongly attributed this as the cause of Jacen's questionable behavior. In reality, he was turning to the dark side. Her denial of Jacen's true motivations led her to believe for a time that Jacen was the best caregiver for Ben. However, she eventually sided with Skywalker, recognizing that her nephew was indeed falling to the dark side. After deducing that her old foe Lumia was still alive, Jade Skywalker constructed a Shoto to combat Lumia's light whip and joined her husband in searching for her, hoping to eliminate the threat she posed. Jade also supervised a sparring session between her husband and son. During their search for Lumia, detectives summoned the Skywalkers to examine Tresina Lobi's corpse in Fellowship Plaza, where Jade learned that Skywalker had instructed Lobi to watch over Ben and Jacen without her knowledge. At the crime scene, they found a holocube that led them to Lumia's apartment, where they discovered evidence linking Lumia to the killing of Botans. Distressed by these findings, Jade decided that Ben needed to be separated from Jacen. Upon landing at the rendezvous point where Jacen had arranged for Ben to meet them, the Skywalkers were ambushed by Lumia and Alema Rar. While Skywalker fought Lumia, Jade dueled Alema Rar, who nearly killed her with a dart. Skywalker was severely injured in his battle with Lumia, but Jade managed to defeat Rar and knocked her unconscious, discovering a bomb attached to her. Returning to find Skywalker had shot Lumia 3 times, Jade pulled him to safety, warning him of the bomb. They then met the rest of the family on Hapes except Han and Leia, and Jacen allowed Skywalker to take Ben away for safety. The three returned to Coruscant. Back at the Jedi Temple, the Skywalkers were informed by Kip Durran of Cal Omus's and Chunyathal's request to promote Jacen to Jedi Master. After Ben disappeared, the Skywalkers suspected Jacen's involvement and contacted him, though they learned little from the encounter. They then met with Jagged Fell at the Jedi Temple, who warned them of Alamara's survival and her role in Tracina Lobi's death. Before the meeting ended, Fell entrusted Skywalker with a special device to aid in capturing Alamara, which they gave to Master Kilgal for analysis. They then received an encrypted message from Han and Leia requesting a meeting on the errant venture. Aboard the errant venture, the Skywalkers reunited with Leia and Han, as well as their old friends Wedge and Iella Wasiri Antilles and Corran and Mirax Horn. They used this opportunity to confront Jacen about his actions with Ben, but a battle alarm allowed him to slip away. After the reunion, Jade Skywalker accompanied Skywalker, Han and Leia to Gilata 8 to rescue Jacen, unaware that the station was a trap for him and the Galactic Alliance. The rescue mission ended disastrously as they encountered Lumia and Ra, along with the station's security, while Jacen escaped to the Galactic Alliance Guard Star Destroyer Anakin Solo. The debacle on Gilata the 8th left Jade Skywalker, her husband, and their allies wary not only of Jacen but also of Alamara and Lumia. Worried about her son's safety, Jade Skywalker resolved to hunt down and kill Lumia, believing that Lumia posed a threat to Ben. To track her son, she gave Ben a vibroblade she had used during her time with the Empire, which contained a nearly undetectable transponder. Refusing help from her husband or other Jedi, she embarked on her mission to eliminate Lumia, whom she saw as a Sith menace to Ben. She found her chance on Hesperidium, where she sustained a bruised eye, split lip, burned neck, and bleeding forehead, while inflicting severe lightsaber wounds on Lumia. When Ben discovered Jacen's connection with Lumia, he informed his mother. Feeling betrayed and distressed, Jade Skywalker confronted Jacen, attempting to bring him back to the light. When Jacen dismissed her warnings, she concluded that he had become too dangerous to leave alive. Jade Skywalker tracked Jacen to Hapes, where he was visiting Tenel Ka and Alana. After he departed Hapes, she ambushed him in her Stealth-X. Following a dogfight in Hapan space, they ended up on the planet Kavan, where their confrontation escalated into a fierce battle. Jade Skywalker initially trapped Jacen under rubble by collapsing the ceiling and tried to shoot him with a blaster, but Jacen's powerful force wave deflected the blaster bolt and debris, knocking her backward. Despite sustaining a scalp injury and being painfully thrown into a brick wall multiple times, she continued to fight using her Shoto and vibroblade. As she was about to finish him off, Jacen created an illusion of Ben's face using the Force, causing Jade Skywalker to hesitate momentarily. Jacen seized the opportunity to stab a poisoned dart into her thigh, resulting in a slow, paralyzing, and painless death. Her final words expressed her belief that Jacen had become more vile and cruel than Palpatine, and she predicted that her husband would defeat him. Jade Skywalker chose not to become one with the Force immediately, leaving her body as evidence of her killer's identity, and to give her family a chance to say goodbye. Her last use of the Force was to whisper in Ben's mind and ruffle her husband's hair. Other Jedi, including Leia, felt her passing through the Force. Her corporeal body remained long enough for Kilgal to perform an autopsy and arrange her funeral on Coruscant. Numerous Jedi, including the entire Masters Council as well as government officials like Chunyatha, attended. Although Leia Organa Solo was meant to deliver the eulogy, she and Han were detained by a Galactic Alliance Guard squad. Instead, Saba Sabatine eulogized the fallen master but was interrupted by the late arrival of Jacen Solo, whose role in Jade Skywalker's death was still unknown. As Darth Caedus, Jacen Solo arrived, Jade Skywalker's body began to fade and dissipate, finally becoming one with the Force. Her son Ben took this as a sign not to trust Jacen. Sabatine continued her eulogy, recounting Jade Skywalker's history and using her transformation from a servant of the dark side to make a point about Jacen Solo, who had taken the opposite path. Jade Skywalker's death drove her son, Ben, to plot against Darth Caedus, whom he believed had murdered his mother. Her husband, Luke Skywalker, initially thought Lumia was responsible and killed her, only to later learn from Ben that Jacen might have been the true culprit. This realization deepened Luke's grief, while Ben's rage and hatred for Jacen intensified, making him willing to sacrifice innocence to end Jacen's life. As the Second Galactic Civil War escalated, Ben sought proof of Jacen's involvement in his mother's death, plagued by suspicions. He recruited Lon Shevu, a sympathetic Galactic Alliance Guard agent, and returned to Kavan to find clues. On Kavan, Jade Skywalker appeared as a Force ghost to Ben, showing that Hare was involved and mouthing the words, "I love you." This revelation led Ben and Shevu to devise a plan to check Jacen's Stealth X for traces of her hair. Using a Coruscant Security Force forensics droid, Ben and Shevu investigated Caedus's Stealth X and found a 29-centimeter-long hair of Jade Skywalker with a tag and blood on it. This was confirmed by comparing it with one of her hairs that Luke Skywalker had. The evidence was later corroborated by Caedus's confession to Shevu that he had fought and killed Mara Jade Skywalker. Ben presented the recordings of the murder scene, the physical evidence, and a recording of Caedus's confession on Endor to his father, Han and Leia Solo and Jaina. Not long after the Second Battle of Fondor, Jade Skywalker appeared as an apparition to her husband, comforting him in his grief and wartime duties. Darth Caedus later worried about the merciless approach Luke Skywalker might take in a confrontation, now that he knew Caedus had killed Jade Skywalker. Ultimately, though, Luke rejected the idea of revenge, choosing not to confront Caedus. This task fell to Jade Skywalker's niece and apprentice, Jaina Solo, who killed the Sith. A year and a half after the war ended, Jade Skywalker appeared in a vision alongside Lumia, Kamsolusa, and Lassin to Jedi Knight Jaden Kor, warning him of a pending problem on Fost. Journeying there, Kor discovered the remnants of an Imperial project from the Thrawn era, designed to clone Force users. The memory of Mara Jade Skywalker also stayed with Kedrin Phal, a salvager Kor encountered. Phal remembered Jade Skywalker from her visit to Outbound flight, and his memory of her led him to assist Kor in investigating the Imperial facility. 3 years after her death, the memory of Jade Skywalker remained vivid for her husband and son. Ben chose to accompany Skywalker into exile, partly because Skywalker was seeking to understand why Jacen fell, and Ben saw this as a way to help lay his mother's killer to rest. Skywalker, still grappling with grief and guilt over not recognizing Jacen's fall and preventing Jade's death, accepted his exile to pursue this search. Ben and Skywalker used her ship, the Jade Shadow, during their quest, which served as a constant reminder of the woman they had lost. While in the Maw cluster, Skywalker and Ben experienced an out-of-body journey to a place called the Lake of Apparitions. There they encountered what seemed to be a reflection of Anakin Solo. After speaking with Anakin, they continued and met Jade Skywalker's spirit. Ben's call of Mum brought her to them. She expressed concern for their well-being, but they reassured her of their safety and mission. Jade Skywalker spoke of her afterlife as a place of reflection, acknowledging the anguish she felt over her actions, particularly her intent to kill Jacen to protect Ben. She emphasized that her actions were not Ben's fault and encouraged him to learn from both her mistakes and Jacen's. Skywalker then inquired about a mysterious woman, Abeloth, seen near the Lake of Apparitions. Jade Skywalker knew little about Abeloth but advised them to avoid her. She ended the conversation by expressing her love and telling them that the Force would be with them. Continuing their search, they thought they sensed Jade Skywalker's presence, urging them to return to the Maw and attempt another out-of-body experience. When Skywalker did so, Jade Skywalker met him again at the Lake of Apparitions, clarifying that it wasn't her they had sensed. They realized they had been misled by Abeloth. Later, Jade Skywalker's ghost interacted with Luke Skywalker when he returned to the realm beyond shadows to confront and destroy Abeloth. Although she couldn't provide a solution to defeat Abeloth, she saved Skywalker from entering the Lake of Apparition, which would have killed him. She told him it wasn't his time yet, and reminded him of his duty to help the galaxy against the Sith. She expressed her love, and urged him to continue his fight as long as the galaxy needed him. Jade Skywalker's legacy endured, with her descendants raised on the Skywalker family histories, where she played a prominent role. Family holos documented the significant events of her life for future generations. One such descendant, Cade Skywalker, a drug-addicted former Jedi, was haunted by the ghosts of his past. Hiding on Ossus, Cade experienced visions of Mara Jade and Anakin Skywalker, who then morphed into Darth Vader to warn him of the perils of the dark side. Whether these were hallucinations or real apparitions, the legacy of Jade Skywalker continued to impact the Skywalker lineage. Mara Jade Skywalker was a fiercely proud woman who always gave her best in everything she did, a trait evident during her time as the Emperor's Hand. In her investigation of Moff Glovestoke, she demonstrated efficiency and skill in taking down the corrupt Imperial official. She didn't stop after Glovestoke's fall or the Emperor's approval, but delved deeper into the conspiracy, following the clues to their source. She refused to serve the warlords who seized power after the Emperor's death, feeling they were beneath her. Jade Skywalker was also deeply devoted, continuing to serve what she perceived as Palpatine's will even after his death. She later showed the same loyalty to Talon Karrde and his organization, even at the cost of total alienation from the Empire, and was enraged when Thrawn forced her to betray Karrde. She displayed the same dedication to her husband, Luke Skywalker, and her son, Ben Skywalker, even refusing to participate in the defense of Boleas to protect Ben. Her upbringing under Darth Sidious and the training she received from the Sith Lord taught her to maintain a calm and collected composure in almost every situation. During the first Corellian insurrection, despite her vendetta against Luke Skywalker, she prioritized the situation's severity and warned Leia and the Senate about a plot to destroy the New Republic. During her brief tutelage under Kyle Katarn when he fell to the dark side, she defended against his attacks, maintaining her calm and eventually surrendering, which led to Katarn's redemption and return to the light. Despite her tough exterior, Jade Skywalker was a warm and compassionate individual. Even as an Imperial assassin, she had a merciful side, particularly when serving the greater good. She spared the rogue stormtrooper unit Hand of Judgment after they aided her on a mission, and allowed Governor Baidor Faruz to survive despite his treason, recognizing his forced collaboration with the Rebel Alliance to save his family. Jade was willing to use her position to save the lives and careers of those she deemed good, though she had no qualms about using people as tools on her missions. Through her love and marriage to Luke Skywalker, Jade Skywalker realized that her life of constant conflict had not provided everything she needed. Her relationship with Skywalker helped her acknowledge her love for him and understand the value of his companionship. She showed her love for him through a playful nickname, Farm Boy, which she constantly used. Her love and compassion were also evident when she gave birth to her son Ben during the Yuuzhan-Vong War. The war made her develop a strong, somewhat overprotective demeanor toward Ben, constantly fearing that the war would take him away from her and her husband. After witnessing the devastation caused by Anakin's death to Leia, Jade Skywalker had no desire to experience such emotional pain. During the Second Galactic Civil War, her love and protectiveness for her son was still evident, as she worried about Ben and his actions within the gag. Even up until her death, her love for her husband and Ben was always present in her mind. Just as her personality was multifaceted, so were the talents that Mara Jade Skywalker employed throughout her varied career. She was a skilled slicer, adept at breaking into secure files with ease, although not quite at the level of Zacharis Gent. During Grand Admiral Thrawn's campaign against the New Republic, when Talon Karrde was captured by Imperial forces, Jade Skywalker took it upon herself to rescue him. She managed to sneak aboard Thrawn's ship, the Chimera, using her slicing abilities to hack into the Star Destroyer's computer systems, eventually reaching the detention block and freeing Karrde. Jade Skywalker was proficient with various types of weaponry, including blaster pistols and rifles, melee weapons, and heavy weapons. She frequently used blaster pistols, including a small holdout blaster concealed in a sleeve holster. Trained in unarmed combat, she was also a skilled tactician, able to quickly analyze situations for dangers and traps and formulate strategies to achieve her objectives. Additionally, Jade was capable of rewiring electronic devices with some proficiency. Throughout her life, she became an experienced pilot, flying a variety of ships in numerous situations. During the Thrawn campaign, she piloted a Z-95 Headhunter and participated in the battle for the Katana fleet, although she was disabled by an ion cannon. During the first Corellian insurrection, Jade Skywalker flew her ship, the Jade's Fire, in several different scenarios. After escaping the Human League with Leia, she piloted her ship through enemy forces and eventually rendezvoused with Han Solo on Solonia. Later, she flew the Jade's Fire in the final battle at Centerpoint Station, contributing to the defeat of the Corellian forces. Following the first Corellian insurrection, she piloted the Starry Ice to rescue Skywalker, who had encountered trouble with the Kavrilhu pirates. Jade Skywalker's piloting skills were crucial in helping Skywalker survive after his infiltration of the pirate group was compromised. During the Yuuzhan Vong War, Jade Skywalker further distinguished herself during the Second Battle of Boreas, when she was appointed second in command of Black Moon Squadron. In this role, she provided cover for the Lusankya during Operation Emperor's Spear, which saw the command ship successfully ram a Yuuzhan Vong world ship. During her tenure as an Emperor's Hand, Mara Jade Skywalker mastered the arts of disguise and infiltration. In 0.5 ABY, she infiltrated the court of Moff Glovestalk by posing as Countess Claria. During this mission, she uncovered that Glovestalk had been embezzling tax funds intended for the Imperial Center. Sneaking through his palace, she discovered 6 stolen paintings worth millions of credits, providing the Emperor with the proof needed to eliminate the treasonous Moff. After the destruction of the first Death Star, she used her spy skills against Darth Vader, documenting his actions and reporting them to the Emperor. In the months leading up to Emperor Palpatine's death, Jade Skywalker was dispatched to Tatooine to infiltrate Jabba's palace. Disguised as the dancing girl Arika, she awaited Luke Skywalker's arrival while setting her plans in motion. Following the Emperor's death, Jade Skywalker found herself pursued by director Izan Isard, but she managed to evade capture by disguising herself as a refugee. During her smuggling days, she often utilized her spy abilities for Talon Karrde, participating in missions like tracking down Yorj Kardas, where her infiltration skills proved invaluable. Her colorful life continually honed the skills necessary for a successful spy. During the Confederation Galactic Alliance War, her son Ben would boast about her spy abilities to Jedi Knight Nalani Din. In the same war, she used her talents to track and monitor Jacen Solo, eventually following him to Hapes, where he was visiting his lover Tenel Ka and their daughter Alana. From her training under Emperor Palpatine to her rise as a Jedi Master, Jade Skywalker consistently demonstrated her prowess as a lightsaber duelist. During the Thrawn campaign, she and her future husband Luke Skywalker faced the deranged Jedi clone Jorus C'baoth and Luke's dark clone. With Luke's support through the Force, she defeated the clone Luke and confronted C'baoth, managing to dodge his Force lightning and stab him through the chest with her lightsaber. During the Yuuzhan Vong War, the Skywalkers investigated the Exgal 4 outpost on Belkadan, where Jade Skywalker engaged in a fierce duel with the Yuuzhan Vong spy, Yomin Ka. The warrior's lack of presence in the Force, his seemingly impenetrable armor, and his strange weapon that could resist a lightsaber's blade surprised her. Nevertheless, she managed to defeat Ka by slicing off both his legs at the knee and stabbing him through the chest. During the Yuuzhan Vong War, the Skywalkers and Tahiri Vela faced the deranged Dark Jedi Lord Nyax, formerly Irek Ismaran. Nyax, who had been held in an Imperial laboratory on Coruscant, had lightsabers surgically implanted in his elbows, knees, and forearms, providing him with 6 lightsaber blades. In the ensuing battle, Nyax's superior strength nearly overwhelmed the 3 Jedi. However, Vela made herself invisible in the Force and severely wounded the Dark Jedi. Ultimately, the Skywalkers and Vela managed to defeat Nyax with relatively minor injuries despite his ease in slaughtering the Jedi-killing Voxin sent by the Yuuzhan Vong. Jade Skywalker continued to display her lightsaber prowess during the Darkness Crisis and had also learned to use Force lightning, employing it against Alima Ra during the Battle of Kiar. She was known to use the Ataru form. During the Second Galactic Civil War, the Skywalkers confronted an old enemy, Lumia. They tracked Lumia and Alima Ra to Hapan space, where a violent duel took place aboard the space station Roku Depot. While Skywalker dueled Lumia, Jade Skywalker fought Ra. Ra shot a poison dart at Jade Skywalker, but she managed to defeat the Twi'lek, knocking her unconscious. Jade Skywalker noticed a bomb on Ra's chest that would detonate if she were killed, sparing her life. As the war progressed, Jade Skywalker grew increasingly concerned for her son's safety and decided to hunt down Lumia. She eventually confronted Lumia on Hesperidium, resulting in another lightsaber duel that left both women severely wounded. In 40 ABY, she also learned to hide in the Force from her son, a skill that would later aid her in her final pursuit of Jacen Solo, who would become Darth Caedus. Mara Jade Skywalker's Force abilities were well developed after years of training and battle. Even Luke Skywalker relied on his wife's danger sense more than his own, as she had needed it to survive as an Imperial agent. Her keen sense of potential threat frequently saved her life by providing warnings of imminent peril. As the Emperor's hand, she could hear Palpatine's voice through the Force, and just before her marriage to Skywalker, they discovered a similar telepathic ability between them. By the time she became a Jedi Master, Jade Skywalker had become a powerful member of the new Jedi Order. During the Yuzhan-Vong War, she successfully used the Force to keep her disease from attacking Ben inside her womb. She could imbue her weapons with the Force to increase their accuracy and damage. By the time of the Second Galactic Civil War, Jade Skywalker's Jedi Master skills had progressed to the point where she could levitate herself across an open area on a bubble of Force energy, keeping the air around her stilled and her heat emissions minimal to avoid setting off any sensors. Jade Skywalker was adept at quickly reading and assessing any situation or individual, and the Emperor had given her memory retention techniques to enhance her abilities. She was also talented enough to secure various odd jobs while on the run, including working as a hyperdrive mechanic. This ship fights my way or not at all. Mara Jade. While working as an Emperor's hand, Mara Jade Skywalker utilized a massive cargo ship as her mobile base of operations. This ship served as her home, where she kept numerous books, personal items, and an extensive array of weapons for various missions. When she was away on assignments for the Emperor, the ship was managed by the protocol droid K3 and crewed by a small group of trusted Imperials. The ship was so large that it had its own hangar bay, which housed several craft, including ground vehicles like land speeders and personal starfighters like Z-95 headhunters. During her time as an Emperor's hand and later as a smuggler and Jedi student, Jade Skywalker frequently chose to fly a Z-95 headhunter starfighter. The Z-95 was known for its dependability, speed, and firepower. During her hunt for Black Nebula, she used a headhunter to discreetly insert herself onto the planet Svivran. Later, during the Grand Admiral Thrawn campaign, she used a Z-95 headhunter at the Battle for the Katana fleet, where she flew alongside New Republic forces against Thrawn's fleet. After being hit by an Imperial ion blast, she manually steered her damaged headhunter into the hangar of an Imperial-class Star Destroyer and ejected just before her craft exploded. Following the Thrawn campaign, Jade Skywalker attended Luke Skywalker's Jedi Praxium, arriving in a Z-95 headhunter, which she intended to use as an escape vessel if necessary. During her time on Yavin 4, she lent her headhunter to fellow Jedi student Corran Horn, who used it to destroy 4 Sith-spawn monsters. After her adventure on Wayland, she piloted a skip-ray blast boat on a mission to aid a New Republic courier. Jade Skywalker briefly entered a mutual apprenticeship with Jedi Kyle Katarn, but their training was cut short when Katarn left to search for the mysterious world of Dromund Kaas. Following him, she utilized the ship Shrike, a prototype starfighter produced by Incom Corporation and owned by smuggler Talon Karda, who permanently loaned it to her for personal use during Operation Shadowhand. For a short period, she operated a ship named Hunter's Luck, which had been a private yacht before being captured by pirates. Jade Skywalker's first privately owned ship was the Jade's Fire, a personal luxury yacht 3000 given to her by Sansia Bardrin. During the first Corellian insurrection, she piloted the Jade's Fire alongside the Lady Luck and Millennium Falcon at the Battle of Centerpoint Station. The Jade's Fire was destroyed during an attempt to infiltrate the Chiss fortress on Nirawan. This ship was unique in having a shootback system that automatically fired on any vessel that attacked it. After the destruction of the Jade's fire, Luke Skywalker presented her with the Jade Saber as a wedding gift. The Jade Saber required a single pilot but could carry up to 15 passengers and 100 metric tons of cargo. It was armed with 4 concealed quad laser cannons and a tractor beam projector. The Skywalkers used the Jade Saber for various missions, including a trip to the edge of the Chiss Ascendancy and a mission to Romamul with Jacen Solo and Leia Organa Solo. The ship was lost on Dantooine during the Yuuzhan Vong invasion, when Jade Skywalker and her nephew Anakin Solo were cut off from their landing site by warrior patrols. Several months after losing the Jade Saber, Lando Calrissian gifted Jade Skywalker a space yacht named Jade Shadow, noted for its non-reflective grey hull. Over time, with her husband's help, she installed a tractor beam projector and reconfigured the aft docking bay to carry her modified Z-95 Headhunter, or even an entire X-Wing. Jade Skywalker used the Jade Shadow throughout the remainder of the Yuuzhan Vong War, including the search for the living planet Zonoma Sekot, and continued to use it during the Second Galactic Civil War. Additionally, she was a capable starfighter pilot, flying X-Wings, E-Wing escort starfighters, and the Stealth X variant of the X-Wing fighter during the Dark Nest Crisis and the Second Galactic Civil War.